the crowd was more eclectic than anything I've ever seen in New York since. It felt like these kids knew a lot of people and it would just spread. And after 6 weeks, we had a line around the block. Breakbeat Science Forum was definitely how the word was spread about jungle and drum and bass in the States. So Simon's was a real anomaly. It was the only club that was flying in British DJs in the 90s.
NASA is lightning in a bottle and then it ends. Like, how did that then transfer into the rest of New York club life?
Hey there, it's me, Roxy Cottontail. You might know me as a DJ, artist, designer, and New York City party promoter, or from my bunny logo. I'm putting all that on the table and writing about the years that transformed music and the New York City scene. I've interviewed 250 friends and colleagues I admire. I ask all and reveal all. Please join me in the tales to rediscover the 90s and the Y2K magical landscape of music, art, technology, and streetwear. This is Roxy's Tales.
I'm DB. I was a former DJ from the 80s to the 2000s. And I came to New York in 88.
My guest this week on Roxy's Tales is DB Burkeman, a true architect of the U.S. drum and bass scene and rave movement in the 90s, from launching the legendary NASA parties to building Breakbeat Science into a cultural hub and record label. DB helped shape an entire scene from the ground up. In this episode, DB shares how lightning in a bottle timing, the right collaborators, and a deep understanding of the city gave rise to something unforgettable, and even a message board involved into a driving force in electronic music. If you care about the roots of rave culture in America, this one's essential. Without further ado, DB Burkeman.
I started playing clubs for other people and realized I couldn't really make a living doing that because they were paying so rubbish. So we started I had English friends and we started throwing our own kind of events. And, you know, the first club that I was successful with was a club called Deep. And I was partners with another DJ called Frankie Inglesi. And we played hip hop and house and Hendrix. It wasn't really just Hendrix, but it was classic rock. So the hip hop, the house, and the Hendrix had a nice ring to it. And the crowd was more eclectic than anything I've ever seen in New York since. Both female to male, color to white. It was really an extraordinary mix.
It was weekly?
Yeah, it was a Saturday night, I think, and it ran for about a year. And we bounced between 5 different semi-legal or completely illegal locations. We were the first people to ever get into Irving Plaza before it was like opened up as a live venue. Mm-hmm. It was a social club for, I think, Polish social club. I don't remember what it was, but somehow one of my partners got the landlord or the caretaker's number and offered him a few dollars, and we brought in a huge sound system. And for me, the thrill was the visual as well as DJing. I would have like up to 20 projectors, slide projectors going at one time. It was really amazing.
Wow. And that ran, what year did that start?
That would have been 1990 to 91.
And where else were you playing? Was that the one night a week?
That was the one night a week. Before that, I played all the hip clubs that were, you know, everything from Red Zone to Mars to the Palladium to Limelight, all the big sort of Velvet Rope type clubs. But the pay was so rubbish that, and it wasn't simply the pay. Also, I wanted to play English music as well as American music. And a lot of the English music would literally clear the floors. It would just kill the American vibe. They didn't understand what the hell I was trying to play. So starting my own parties was partly a sort of, you know, need to express myself musically. You know how that goes.
Yep. And so then when does NASA begin?
So I attempted to do something similar to NASA in 91. It was a club called Brilliant at the Bank. You remember the Bank on the corner of Houston and Avenue A? So I did this club called Brilliant, which was more or less the same formula as NASA. And I brought in DJs that were doing the same thing, like Moby and people that went on to be NASA regulars. but it was just too early. It was maybe 6 months too early. There was a tipping point where suddenly there were enough new kids that wanted the next thing, wanted the new thing. And the new thing just happened to be NASA. So they took it over. NASA started in July 92 and ran 1 year at the shelter till July 93. Yeah, NASA was lightning in a bottle, as I say. It was like the perfect storm of new music, new kids, and this feeling of kind of energy, and a combination of the fact that these kids had no experience. Most of the people that were coming to NASA had no previous club experience. So they weren't used to this idea that most New York clubs had a velvet rope policy, or, you know, you had to be picked, the sort of Studio 54 culture that had permeated the whole city. So the idea with NASA was, and it basically had been the idea of all my parties, Deep, Orange, Brilliant, and then finally NASA, was we made it cheap. Like Deep was $5 and everyone paid. There was no guest list. Run DMC, Keith Haring, they all came, they all paid, and nobody complained.
But so NASA was weekly, right?
Yes, Friday nights at the shelter.
And it was all ages?
Yes, there was no alcohol at the shelter. So kids would probably get drunk before they came or took whatever at the party. But we had like, we had a smart bar. I don't know if you know what that even is. It was like energy drinks made up from God knows what. I never got involved in that side of things. But it was like, you know, health drinks and stuff like that. So and there was like fruit and stuff to keep you awake.
And so NASA goes on successfully for a year.
Yeah, it didn't start successfully. It took about a month where we thought every week, should we carry on? Shouldn't we carry on? It didn't kick off immediately, but I just felt like, gotta stick this out. This is gonna catch, because the people that were coming were so enthusiastic about it, and also they were important people. It felt like these kids knew a lot of people and it would just spread. And after 6 weeks, we had a line around the block. So it just suddenly like caught fire.
With you introducing a lot of the rave music from England, was there anyone else that had access to that at that time?
Oh, absolutely. But it wouldn't worked if it was just me. There was 2 kids that were 17 or 18 years old, Jason Jinx and Arnie. Back then he was called On-E, Arnie, who went on to become a member of Delight, actually. Those 2 kids were obsessed and knowledgeable about British hardcore / jungle as I was, and they'd also got on mailing lists in the UK. So as well as us 3, there was also Carlos Soulslinger, who was one of the owners of Liquid Sky, and he was also playing jungle as well.
NASA is lightning in a bottle, and then it ends. Like, how did that then transfer into the rest of New York club life?
I mean, it wouldn't have ended if the building hadn't owed back taxes. It coincidentally closed, the building closed, got seized by the government.
Wow.
On our year, or right after our year anniversary. It felt like it was all planned, but it was simply that we couldn't go back in there. So we tried to do some other locations. There was a club called, I can't even remember what it was called, but it never felt like it could work again for me. We did a nationwide tour where we took Moby, Orbital, Aphex Twin, and
I read about this.
Yeah, and it was a bit of a disaster. Some of the parties were good, some of them were really bad. It was paid for. Oh, I remember what happened. While we were still at the shelter, I met a guy called Chip Quigley. Chip Quigley worked for Ron Delsner, who was big New York promoter back then. Chip approached us at NASA and said, what you guys are doing is great. We would love to try and make it bigger for you. Let's talk about it. So we did a plan to tour this thing where we booked like international names like Aphex and Moby and Orbital and planned out this tour. And the New York date was the Coliseum. And we needed 2,000 people to break even, which was, double the size of NASA. But the room held 10,000 people. Like, it was a fucking huge space. I remember, it wasn't my money. The Ron Delsner Corporation had funded this, but I'm such a responsible kind of like nervous type. I was counting the tickets, praying we got to the 2,000, which I think we sold 2,017 tickets at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I was like, phew, thank God we broke even. But the party itself, to me, all these kids have amazing memories of it. To me, it never felt like it was that great. It was interesting from a sort of point of view of getting in a building that I'd never got into before. I love doing that. That's part of the thrill. But it didn't really work for me. And by that time, my partner and I were not even talking anymore. So I just kind of like drifted away, went on to do other things. I think I already had plans to open the record shop underneath Liquid Sky. And that's what I was sort of focusing on. I was also given this really cool job doing A&R for Profile. I'd worked for Profile since 1991, sort of being like an A&R scout. But then they offered me and Gary Peeney. Do you know the name Gary Peeney?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Him and I were offered our own imprint. So we started this label called Spiral Communications, which was going to be like the electronic side of Profile Records. That, I guess, was 93, 94. So I was kind of like, I'm done with promoting. I was now, because of NASA, I now had a bit of a reputation as a DJ, and I was getting other people booking me. So I wasn't that interested in doing the big rave promotion anymore.
Yeah. Were you doing Buzz and Fever?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, because I'm from there. So
Right.
I know.
Did you know Lonnie as well?
I don't know. I was really in the punk scene in DC, and I had a best friend who traversed the East Coast going to a lot of these events, but Buzz and Fever were the closest to home.
Totally.
Yeah.
Lonnie Fisher was also a promoter in Baltimore who threw massive raves. He had some partners, but it was his brainchild. And he ended up opening his own club there called Sonar, I think.
Yes.
It was a pretty good club, really good club. I knew about Baltimore music because we put out a compilation of it through a label that was very, very short-lived. But I was always curious, like, is anyone playing this stuff in New York?
There were a lot of events with Scotty B, DJ Techniques, Rod Lee, DJ Class too. He had a song with Kanye in like 2007 or 8, and it's a Baltimore club song. So
Baltimore's great. I love Baltimore. It's so like, it's such a kind of like a closed off kind of enclave of creators that do their own thing.
Yeah, I also know from everyone not everybody, but I would say majority of people also define like drum and bass as just having big momentum, and then it like fell to the wayside in a way. And it's having a resurgence now.
I know, it's crazy. My son keeps playing me things. I was like, is that from 97 or is that new? Brand new.
Yeah. You said you were mostly traveling along the East Coast, right?
Yeah, mostly. Occasionally, there weren't that many places that were open to it. So LA, San Francisco, Miami. Have you ever heard of the Club Simons in Gainesville?
No.
So Simons was a real anomaly. It was the only club that was flying in British DJs in the 90s. Wow. Like Sasha and Digweed played there in probably mid-90s. It's like way early.
The four of you, I would say, from Jason, Jinx, Oni, and Carlo.
Yeah, Carlo.
Like you guys like then all did your own things?
Well, Ani joined Delight.
Yeah.
Carlos had his own DJ career, but was also in charge of Liquid Sky. So that was a full-time career. Jason went into house music. He really started producing. If you put Jason's name into Discogs, it's all house music.
Yeah.
Maybe one or two jungle records early on. But he did a ton of, 12 inches for everyone from Strictly to, the normal house labels of the day. And I was also DJing on a lot of weekends, but had a real job working for the label and also owning a record shop.
What was your shop called?
Breakbeat Science.
Oh, yeah. Okay, duh.
We opened in 96, I think, on 9th Street between 1st and 2nd. But then it really took off and we needed a bigger space. So we took a big chance and moved down to Orchard.
And what year was that?
That would have been 99. We had the most incredible first 3 months. It was like business like we'd never seen it. And then 9/11 happened. The economy stopped. People stopped going to clubs. People stopped buying records. Also, what happened is Napster. So not only did people stop buying records, they would just steal them now. Why would you buy a record? The Breakbeat Science Forum was super, super important for the sort of transmission of musical ideas and suggestions of what to listen to and who to listen to and all of that. I was too much of a Luddite, I think, to even understand how it worked. And I just was also afraid of it because I saw people like flaming each other and I was like, I'm not going in that room.
Yeah.
So I stayed away from it. But yes, Breakbeat Science Forum was definitely how the word was spread about jungle and drum and bass in the States.
Did you ever work with like Larry T or Benny Soto?
Never worked with the new Larry because I was Keoki's stand-in at Disco 2000. Michael Alec would call me and say, Keoki can't work tonight or something like that. Would you come in and cover for him? So I would go in and Larry was obviously the host of that party. So I knew Larry, but never worked with him in terms of, playing for one of his parties.
Yeah.
You know about this?
No. Oh my God, I'm in it. Wow.
I thought it was Genius Sticker.
Thank you. Who put that out?
Rizzoli.
Wow.
You're on the bunny page.
Oh my God. Look at that. I'm famous.
You are.
Yeah, my stickers were everywhere for a while.
They certainly were.
This is so awesome. You're great.
Oh, thanks. So are you.
Yeah.
Funny that we never really met.
No.
I guess, I'm 20, 30 years older. So it's like I wasn't going to other people's clubs. I was really, I was married and I just didn't want to go out anymore.
Yeah. I appreciate this so much. You've really connected a lot of dots for me, as
awesome.
I know you would.
Awesome.
Thanks for hopping by. That's it for this week. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, and stalk. Bounce, little kitty.